I'm Bree.
And I'm Hannah.
We met through our shared obsession with romance and fantasy novels.
And honestly, we haven't stopped talking about books since.
Each week, we're sharing what we're reading, sharing our opinions,
and spilling all the tea about our lives.
So whether you're here for book recs, hot takes, or you just want to hang out with us for a bit,
you're in the right place. We're also talking about life, sharing our highs and lows,
and having the kind of conversations we'd have over margaritas.
Welcome to Chapter Chats. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our second ever book club episode of Chapter Chats. Yeah, so we'll jump into our book club in a little bit, but first off, why don't you hit us with your highs and lows?
Yeah, so my high this week is that I got to spend a lot of time with my baby niece, which is always a high, especially because the time before, she hated me. She did not want to be held by me, and she screamed every time I touched her. And this time she was back to loving me. So it was definitely a high of the week.
You're the favorite again.
Yes, I'm blessed again.
My high, I had a hard time thinking of one this week, not because, my life is terrible, but just because there wasn't anything that, stood out as, super new and different. But I very rarely, before the start of a work week, have, all of my laundry done and folded and put away. But I do today, and it makes me feel extremely put together.
My low is the fact that we have a chance of up to 13 inches of snow this weekend, and I am not a cold weather person. I think we've established this in previous episodes. It's not for me. I don't want it. If we get snow, I want to not have to go anywhere. And then it's okay. But still, snow is also only fun for, the first day when it's, really pretty. And then after that, it looks gross. And then it's gross outside and cold. So, not a fan.
Your two least faves.
Yep.
My low, so when we're recording this, we're currently on a 3-day weekend, and so I don't know why work's not bad. I just have a lot of weird anxiety about work tomorrow for whatever reason. So I'm qualifying that as my low, even though that's just Sunday scaries on a Monday.
So now for our recent reads. What is your recent read you want to talk about?
I recently read Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I did not know a ton about this book other than that I feel it's on the best of for speculative fiction all the time, and I'm not a big speculative fiction reader, I don't think, but for some reason I feel quite a few apocalypse stories in the last 6 months ish, and what's funny is so many of them, this one included, were published way before COVID, but feel very COVID-esque. But anyway, this one's supposed to be post-apocalypse-ish. I forget what it's called. I think it's the Georgia flu is what it's called, but it's essentially a COVID, but it's the Georgia flu, and it wipes out all but 2% of the world's population, and most of the story takes place the night that it all started really spreading, that it came to the US and Canada, because most of the story's in Toronto, and then 20 years later, when we're kind of following this band of misfits who have put together this traveling Shakespeare theater troupe, which is really interesting because the night that everything goes awry, essentially our characters are at a performance of King Lear, and so there's kind of this Shakespeare through line, which is really interesting. And it felt a little bit Last of Us coded, minus the infected, in the sense that there's, instead of in most science fiction you have this really advanced technology, we've very much regressed in this story back to pretty much prairie time, but then there's abandoned tractors that haven't been used in forever, and people are still it's just 20 years, so there's a lot of people that still remember technology and how great the world was. And so it's got really interesting themes of romanticizing our current time period almost, and it makes you think about how life would work if we didn't have all of those. And there's a lot of very smart people, but nobody knows how to purify water or anything like that, because that was who needed to learn that when it was just done for you. And there are a bunch of kids that were born after kind of the societal collapse who are what do you mean you don't know how to do neurosurgery? You had the whole internet. Why didn't you learn? And it makes you think we have so much access to information and we use it to doom scroll Well, it was just a trip, but it was really good. It felt, I talked about Anxious People like 2 episodes ago, I think, and it kind of felt that way in the sense that it was very much following a lot of different characters' arcs, but there wasn't really necessarily like a point, I would say. And there's this like religious cult, which does not play a big part in the story except at the end, but it was just an interesting kind of look. But yeah, it was written in 2014, so it's crazy that all of this was so far before COVID. And yet, how about yours?
Yeah, I have not read that yet, but it's on my list because I've heard a lot of good things, so maybe one day. Okay, my recent read is Blindsighted by Karin Slaughter, which I really enjoy Karin Slaughter as a writer. I've read the entire Will Trent series. It's one of my favorite like thriller police procedural series. And I hadn't read many other books by her besides Will Trent. And this is kind of connected to the Will Trent series because it's about Dr. Sarah Linden, who's Will Trent's love interest. It's like her like prequel story almost. And it came out before Will Trent. So that's on me for reading them out of order. But I will say, I was like, if you like thrillers, if you like police procedurals, but you also like good developed characters, I feel like Karin Slaughter really succeeds in writing a thriller where you actually care about the people, because for me, a lot of times with thrillers, like, I don't care about the characters. I just want the twists and the, suspense and surprises. But, like, she really humanizes the story and the characters, and it makes you, like, root for them individually as well as, like, the thrill part of it. So I really enjoy it. And the audio is done by, I think it's Kathleen Early is her name, but she reads all of her books, and I just think she does a phenomenal job with them.
I think finding a good narrator is really key to, like, liking audiobooks. But I've also heard that about Karin Slaughter, that she's one of the few people that has, like, a lot of characters to root for in her stories and not just, like, being purely reliant on the thrill of it. Cool. Well, let's jump into our book club book. This month we read Things You Save in a Fire by Katherine Center. Do you want to start off with, like, ratings?
Yeah, I gave the book 4 stars. I really, really liked it.
I also gave it 4 stars. I liked it as well. I don't think it, like, hits. I don't think it's one of my favorite Katherine Centers, but I did like it a lot. I think she always picks, like, some interesting elements to put into her story. Like, I thought the firefighting aspect was really cool, because I haven't read a lot of romances that incorporate, like, where they're both firefighters and not just, the big hunky male firefighter kind of, I don't know that you can call that a trope, but trope feature.
Yeah, no, I agree. It didn't have like 5-star magic for me, but I still really, really enjoyed it. I listened to the audio and I thought it was done really well. And overall, like, it was still a very solid, like, good romance book in my opinion. Do you want me to read like a little synopsis?
Sure, yes. We should have put off the bat too that this is not going to be a spoiler-free discussion. All of our book clubs will include spoilers. But yeah, do you want to read a synopsis?
Yeah, or, I mean, I guess I'm not really reading one. I'm just giving you, like, a plot summary.
That's fine.
I guess is a better way to say it. But basically, the book starts out with our girl Cassie, who's our female main character, and she's about to receive a big reward for being this firefighter, and I think it's like the Hero Award or something, like bravery and heroism.
Like,
is that right?
Valor.
I think something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so she gets up there to accept the award, except the person who is presenting the award, she has a really bad past with that you don't learn about until closer to the end, but basically it is a boy who sexually assaulted her when she was 16, and so she goes on stage to accept the award, he basically gropes her, and she beats the hell out of him when he does that, and he's like a city councilman, like,
and beyond.
Yeah, she just takes him out. And he's, the city councilman. He's very respected because people don't know, obviously, what a terrible person he is. So, that same night, she gets a call from her estranged mother who left their family on Cassie's 16th birthday, and she really hasn't seen her mother since then. She doesn't really have a relationship with her. Her mom calls and says that she's going blind, she's had surgery, and she really needs Cassie to move to Massachusetts and live with her and help her out. Cassie lives in Texas currently. And so she doesn't want to do that because she hates her mom. But then the next morning, she goes into her fire station, and her fire chief is basically like, you have to apologize for beating up the guy or you're fired. And Cassie's is like, I'm not going to apologize to this man. You don't understand, like, what he's done, but I'm not going to do it. And then she basically gets the idea to be like, instead of firing me, why don't you help me transfer to this place in Boston to be a firefighter up there while I can also help my mom who's going through the surgery. So a lot of stuff happens about that. She ends up getting relocated up to the Boston firefighter area.
Station?
Firehouse, right? Fire station. There it is. I knew it was going to come. Except in the Boston fire station, they've never had a female firefighter, and they don't really believe females can be firefighters, so it's like very full of sexism, and she has to continually prove herself, and she starts on the same day as the rookie, who's the newest firefighter, whose family is like a firefighting legend family. Like, his dad was huge in it, I think it's grandpa, like, everyone. So the whole like middle chunk of the story is basically like her repairing and finding a way to forgive her mother and work through that relationship, while also like break through at this firehouse, while also falling in love with the rookie, while also having someone trying to sabotage her and get her to quit and leave because they don't believe women should be firefighters. And at the end, obviously, her and the rookie get to be together. The person who's been sabotaging her is revealed, and she learns forgiveness and has like a closure with her mother. And yeah, it was just really good.
Yeah, it's funny because while I was reading it, I didn't feel like it was a super complex plot line, but when you're like putting all of it together, there really were like a lot of moving pieces involved in this one thing. Mm-hmm. But I really liked Cassie. I thought she was a great FMC, and I feel like she was sympathetic and dealing with... I like it when there's conflict in a story that's not like just rooted in miscommunication. Like, I think we can get into this in more detail, but I really liked kind of the side quest with her mom and learning kind of the different side and like the information that Cassie kind of filled in the blanks with herself and just assumed about her mom, and never really, like, no one told her certain things. She just kind of assumed, and they weren't actually that way, and that really impacted her relationship with her mom, and I mean, or lack thereof, I guess, for years. And definitely the whole firefighting plot was interesting, and I think something we can dig into. Characters, what'd you think?
Yeah, I really, really liked Cassie as an FMC. I thought that her, like, drive and ambition was very relatable, especially as someone who also uses her drive and ambition to not have to deal with her feelings. Very relatable on that note. Totally get you, Cassie girl. But I also thought, at least for me, which I haven't experienced, like, a lot of sexism in the lawyer world, but I have experienced some where, like, this dude was literally like, oh, I'll teach you how to write a motion to dismiss. And I was like, I know how to write a motion to dismiss. I'm not an idiot. Like, I went to law school, too. I know how to write a paper. So I feel like if you've worked in a male-dominated field, you've probably, like, experienced that, even just the tiniest bit, because it's not super prevalent, at least in my area that I work in, because I have a great unit and a great support system, but there's still some where I feel like, you know, like, being in that good old boys club of lawyers or firefighters, like, I've thought that was pretty relatable to some things I've experienced, and that got off topic to the plot instead of characters. But I stand by everything I said. Owen, the rookie, our MMC, I thought that he was the perfect kind of MMC for this book, because he wasn't super loud or showy. It was really like a quiet sort of like connection and love that they had, and he was like more of like a backbone to the book and the relationship versus like the broody prince that's taking up all this, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was just very like almost like nonchalant, like he just was a steady presence.
Yeah, I thought he balanced Cassie out perfectly, and I think kind of what you touched on, she felt like she had to not only meet expectations but exceed them in every way possible, otherwise they wouldn't accept her. And so to have kind of a soft place to land in the form of Owen, where he's not actually expecting anything of her and thinks she's like amazing exactly the way that she is, I think was really kind of critical to her own personal development. And that was definitely in the form of like him just being her friend, even without any kind of like romantic attachment to it. I echo everything you said on like the sexism front in terms of like the discrimination she was dealing with. And also there was, I think, an element of like ageism too, where like kind of the older guys were flaunting not even their age necessarily, but their experience and treating her like a rookie, even though she in fact was not a rookie. She was just new to that particular fire station. And I do sometimes think, and this is part of the reason that I think I was held back from a 5-star a bit, that Katherine Center does occasionally kind of introduce these larger themes and doesn't have maybe like the space among everything else that's going on to really like flesh them out, because I feel like there was kind of this angle of Cassie's going to be the most like badass woman firefighter there ever was, and it's like I wish there was a little bit more development of like she doesn't have to necessarily be one of the guys in order to make it work. You know what I mean? So I felt like that was a little bit undercut almost, in the sense that it's like, I feel like all the men accepted her because she could perform at their level and not because they should just accept women. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying there. I definitely feel like she doesn't handle, also, it's not even that she doesn't handle deeper topics with care. It's just she introduces a lot of them, because in this we had like the estranged mother, the mother with illness, sexism, ageism,
Sexual assault,
falling in love. Like, it was just a lot. Being new at a place. Like, it was just so many that they didn't, like, I feel like if she'd picked like one or two and really fleshed those out, it would have been a 5-star, instead of having a bunch that weren't written badly but weren't fully developed to where I like want them in my books.
I totally agree. And I think that's not an isolated problem just to this book either. I feel like that happened for me in, like, I don't think you've read How to Walk Away yet, have you? That's like the red cover one with the plane on it. That's about like a plane crash, and it's dealing with disabilities and like weird family expectations, and then like this like really crappy fiance the main character has, and like just all kinds of stuff. I think Hello Stranger does that a little bit too, with the face blindness and the career aimlessness, and like Love Haters is one of her more recent ones. I felt like she did that a little bit with like the whole body image conversation. Like, it's exactly what you said. She puts so much in there that there's genuinely no possible way for her to deal with it all, and like with the depth that I think I would maybe have wanted it to be handled with in the short amount of pages that she has. But it's not that I think she does, like you said, a bad job with what she has. It's just that it's impossible for her to go deeper without making it into
I think out of all
page book.
Yes, I think out of all of the themes, especially like heavier topics, I think the one that she handled the best in this book was like the overarching theme of forgiveness, and what that means not only for the person you're forgiving but for yourself, and what it looks like in different scenarios of differing levels of like intensity. And so I thought that was handled really well and fleshed out the most out of all of the topics, I felt like.
I agree. I think her relationship with her mom was a really heartwarming thing to watch develop throughout the course of the book, because she was bringing in kind of all of the baggage that she had invented for her own relationship with her mom. And I think she was kind of able, based on her relationship with Owen, to understand where her mom was coming from when her mom left them. Because if you don't remember and you're listening to this, basically the man that she assumed her mom was cheating on her dad with, actually, one, they were never cheating, and two, he was terminally ill and had no one else who was able to like care for him, essentially. And so her mom, with full knowledge of her dad, left with the intention of taking care of him, and then just never came back, essentially. But her intention was never to like leave her family. It was to take care of her love, basically. And I think that's something that Cassie wasn't able to really put together until she had someone like Owen in front of her, where she's like, I would do the same thing for him. And while obviously it's not saying that her mom didn't, you know, make mistakes by doing that, but I think that was a really interesting look at it, especially because when she talked to her dad about it again, he's like, I never said that she cheated on me. That was all you, sis, coming up with that.
I think too, the whole like, it was almost like a romantic suspense plotline, just not fully like there, but of like who's like writing her mean messages and who's like throwing bricks in her mom's window and all these things. I thought that I really liked that plot line. It wasn't like the most developed mini suspense plotline I've ever read, but I thought it was really worked for the story she was telling, and how Cassie's like not going to tell anyone because she doesn't want anyone to find her weak. But also, this is a really scary thing, like someone threw a brick through your window. It's not just you have to worry about, you're also worried about your mom. And the like ending with it being Dacio, don't know how to say his name, but and then her going to his house and confronting him. Yeah, I think it did. I was like, but her going to his house and basically confronting him and seeing why he is the way he is, while not excusing his actions, just understanding, and then her forgiving him. Like, I just thought that was a really powerful like example of forgiveness. Like, I'm forgiving you, I'm not accepting what you did, I'm not saying it's okay, but I'm not gonna let it control my life like your bad decisions have controlled yours and led you to this point.
I agree. I did think it was a very powerful moment, and that he was able to like go to, was it like rehab or something, or some kind of program that he ended up in at the end to like help him work through his own issues, which was cool. However, I was like, girl, what are you doing when she went over there by herself? I'm like, are we serious right now?
Yes.
You like know this dude's dangerous and you're like, I'm gonna talk to him through the power of words. And like, good for you that worked out, but holy, like, and
I do agree with you there. I was like, have your phone out and record your conversation, honey. Like, what are you doing?
At a minimum. And I think that did kind of come from like her wanting to prove that she is the baddest ass to ever exist or whatever. But I felt that way also when she was like clocking the dude in the face at the very beginning of the book. Like, okay, I understand the frustration, but like maybe we don't need to do that like in public. Especially, we didn't touch on this yet, but the whole thing was that she was kind of next in line for this promotion because her current boss at the Texas fire station was a woman and had really kind of supported and mentored her into kind of getting into this position. And her mentor tells her, like, everything's pretty much down the drain because you did this, but we can rehab it if you apologize. And that she was like, no. I'm like, okay, I get that you don't want to apologize to your abuser. At the same time, like, you're gonna give up your whole career for that? Like, I experienced levels of frustration with Cassie. Also, not related to this, but at the very beginning, her partner, Hernandez, tells her, it comes out, like, as a joke, apparently, that he wants to, like, sleep with her. I hated that whole, like, interaction when he's like, oh, it was just a joke. But you were into it, weren't you? I'm like, who is this? Like, he sucks. I thought he might be like the MMC for a bit, so I'm glad he wasn't, because what the heck?
I didn't really hate Hernandez, but maybe I just didn't pay attention that well. I was like, I thought he was kind of funny.
I was gonna say, I think it kind of framed Cassie as like kind of shoving down her own feelings about things to just like go along with whatever the guys are doing, because as soon as they were all like, oh my gosh, we almost got you, she's like, haha, yeah, when on the inside she's like, what? Like, what if I had been into you? And it would have all just been, like, a joke? Like, that's terrible.
No, I also thought he was going to be the MMC there at the beginning. The other thing that I personally really liked is the part where she's talking about doing the, like, big course at the fire station that they, like, do to, like, prove themselves or whatever. And she was like, I can beat anyone, blah, blah, blah. I was like, girl, no, you can't. I was like, I think that was just another moment of her being like, I'm the best. I can beat any man ever. And I was like, this is a huge, like, you cannot beat every man ever. And so I really liked that she went against the rookie and, like, she won, air quotes. But, like, even she recognized, like, I didn't really win. Like, he let me win because he knew I needed to prove myself. And I'm going to respect that. And I'm not going to get mad at him for doing that. Because I recognize that that's not my worth. Like, I'm a great firefighter even if I don't beat every man because I have different strengths. And so I thought that whole, like, moment was really good, because I really expected her to be like, I can't believe you let me win, blah, 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 and I was going to be really annoyed with her. And so I really liked that she was not that way.
Yeah. And I think it was telling, because Owen, you don't know this obviously during that scene, but like it does come out later, that he has no real interest in being a firefighter. Like, it's not his passion. It wasn't important to him. And so the fact that he kind of was able to like recognize that within her, like, it means so much to you. And for me, I really couldn't care less whether or not I'm winning this. And the fact that there's this competition between the two of us to like get the one available spot, like, I don't care. Like, have it, take it. I don't need it. Whereas I feel like a lot of romances, they're gonna just be in it like butting heads the whole time, and so that was a nice twist. And I think you see the growth, like we've kind of been talking about, but particularly from that situation all the way through the end when D'Estasio's like, we have to go in to rescue I heard a noise or whatever in the burning building, and she's like, no, we have to wait for backup.
I saw a child.
This isn't protocol and that kind of thing, and she's kind of able to put her foot down, obviously not knowing that that's the saboteur for the whole time, but like being like, I don't care if you think I'm weak or whatever, this is how we're gonna do this, and I outrank you. It was just a really cool progression, I think. Like, there was a lot of character growth from her, even if, you know, those aspects that we kind of talked about weren't my favorite parts.
No, I agree. I thought she had really good character growth and development throughout the book as a whole, especially for how short the book was.
It was a really quick read. Like, I want to say the physical book was like just over 300 pages.
Yeah, I think the audiobook was like 11 hours, maybe. I don't even know if it was that long.
The narrator was slow too. Like, I normally can go, I typically will start audiobooks at like 2 to 2.5, and then as soon as I'm used to the narrator's voice after like an hour or two, I'll speed it up to 3. But I could pretty much go at 3 from the get-go, because I think it was just a slow narrator.
Yeah, I think I listened at 2.5 and it was definitely slow. I think in my, like, rankings of Katherine Center books, this is probably my fourth favorite. I was like, because the rom-comers and happiness for beginners.
Okay.
Rom-comers and happiness for beginners are probably tied for first and second. And then next would be The Bodyguard, which I really liked, but I gave 4 stars. And I think it would probably be slightly above this, but still really close. And then the only other 2 I've read are The Love Haters, which I gave 3.5. And then Hello Stranger, which I hated, and I gave 2. It was a soft 2. Probably could have been lower. Like, I hated that book. But I was like, I read The Hello Stranger was my first one, and I was like, I'm never reading another Katherine Center. Like, I hated this book. And then you convinced me to read more because you liked them so much. And I'm really glad I did, because I genuinely enjoy her writing. And it's very, I feel like, low stakes in the fact that, yes, she talks about heavier topics sometimes, but I don't feel anxious reading her books. Even with this one, when I was trying to figure out, like, who's doing these things for her, like, I didn't feel stressed and like, oh my gosh, I have to pick this up now. I have to figure it out. What's going on? Like, it's very chill to read her books.
Yeah, I would say that, like, subplots are usually cozy mystery feeling, if anything else. Like, even with The Bodyguard, there's, like, a stalker and all that, and it's not, you're just out here. I agree. I think I would put this one third-ish, but I feel like after Happiness for Beginners and the rom-comers, for me, a lot of them are kind of middling 4-star reads. Like, I liked Hello Stranger. Like, I don't hate it nearly as much as you do. I think this one would be in there. The Bodyguard would kind of be in there. I feel like I have, like, my favorites and then, like, the good ones and then ones that I really didn't like, which I would put as, like, Everyone is Beautiful, which is one of her very backlist books. And I think the reason I didn't like that one as much is because, even more so than The Love Haters, it really centered around body image and body dysmorphia, particularly postpartum. And so I don't have kids, so I think maybe that would have hit differently if I had the motherhood angle to look at it through.
Yeah.
And then How to Walk Away, I really didn't like very much. But I still think I gave both of them 3 stars. So it's not like they're bad books. They're just not my favorite of hers. But I would say this one is, like, average to good in terms of Katherine Center books.
I agree with that.
Cool. Well, we would love to know what you guys think. So if you read this with us, or you read it previously, or you're currently reading it, you can drop a comment. We'll have a post up for our book club episode on our Instagram and our TikToks probably. So you can always go in, let us know what you think on there. You can comment on Spotify. There's really no limit to the ways you can talk to us. Do we sound desperate enough?
Please talk to us.
We're begging.
Okay, and for our final little moment here, we're going to be sharing some of our unpopular opinions, which is my favorite thing to do. So, do you want me to go first?
Sure. I haven't thought of one yet, so I'll think of it while you're sharing yours.
Don't worry, I got enough for both of us. My unpopular opinion today that I'm sharing is that I do not care what you thought about a book if you DNF'd it. DNF all you want. I personally do not DNF because, 1, I like to know how a book ends, and 2, if I hate a book, I want to be able to complain with my whole chest and tell you why I hated it. So I'm always going to finish. That's just who I am as a person. And I read fast enough that it doesn't... People are always like, life's too short to read a book you hate. I feel like for most people, yeah, but not to, like, toot my own horn, but I'm a pretty fast reader, so it's not like I'm wasting a ton of time reading books. Like, I can finish it pretty quickly, and it just really bugs me when people are like, I DNF'd this book, and here's everything that's wrong with it, and I only read 10% of it, and I'm like, well, you don't know anything. You didn't even get 100 pages in, most likely, so I just really, like, I just don't care what you thought, and I'm not going to read your review if you DNF'd it. Like, that's just... No, not for me.
I agree with that. I think it's very fair to say why you DNF'd, because that can be useful for another reader if they're deciding whether or not to read it. But if you're coming at it from, like, a reviewer's standpoint, like, half of the situations, like you said, that you might have identified as reasons you DNF'd might be dealt with, resolved, developed. Like, you might end up in a completely different spot by the end of it. So I think if you DNF something, you should say explicitly that you DNF'd it, at what point you DNF'd it, and why you DNF'd it, and that's really the full extent of what I need from you. I don't think it's fair to give a star rating.
Agreed.
Mine that I thought of, I don't know that this is fully unpopular, but I get yelled at it online for doing this a lot, which is that I don't believe in keeping books pristine. Like, I think there's a difference between intentionally abusing your books, just like intentionally abusing any of your possessions. You shouldn't do it. But I think at the end of the day, books are meant to be read. So, like, I dog ear my books. I don't really use bookmarks for whatever reason. If a spine cracks, it's not the end of the world to me. I like to highlight and write in my books and leave notes and stamp them and emboss them and things like that. And I really like used books. Actually, I like new books too, but I like going to like used book sales, little free libraries, things like that, to find a book that feels like it had a life before me, because I don't know, I feel like readers are all kind of on this like adventure together. Like, I used to love it when I would get used books in like college or whatever, when I was broke and would rather take a super beat up copy of something for $2 than like spend the money to go buy a new one. And you could see notes from people or like their thoughts as they were reading it. And I love that. It feels like another community reading experience when you're almost seeing the like ghost of a prior reader in your books. And so, yeah, I think, like I said, I don't know that that's super unpopular, but I feel like there's a lot of people that even just for shock value will be like, what do you mean you don't use bookmarks? I would never crack spines. And I'm like, I don't think that's that big of a deal. With the exception of special editions, I will try to keep those nice, but I'll still read them. Like, I don't get what the point is of having a book if you're never going to open it.
No, I totally agree. Like, my fairy loots and my special editions, I try to keep them as pristine as possible, mostly because they have sprayed edges. If they didn't have sprayed edges, I wouldn't care as much, but I don't want to mess up the edges. But every other book, like, I always dog-ear. I've dog-eared. There we go, dog-eared. Since I was little, it's just what I like to do, and I lose bookmarks way too easily. I will use a bookmark for my fairy loot, but that's about it. I love to write in my books. I love to highlight. I love to annotate. I also just feel like I personally don't buy as many used books, mostly because I like to reread so much, and I feel like when I reread, I dog-ear in different places. I highlight different things. The spine cracks in different ways, so I just feel like it is almost like telling a story of my reading journey and how I've grown as a reader and things that impacted me differently, or, things that made me stop, and all these different things as I've read books multiple times through the years. And so I just think it makes it, I don't know, more like it's like a character in my life. Like this book that I've read 50 times, and look at all these pages I've dog-eared, and look at these quotes I've highlighted. Like, I just think it makes it take on a life of its own.
Yeah. And I like that. I like to think of my future library. I'm trying really hard over the next couple of years to like get my TBR down so that the books that I own are pretty much all 4 and 5 star reads that I love, because I love the idea of, having books that I've read 19 times with all of my notes in it, or exactly. Like, I cared about this quote this time and didn't even notice this other one, but on this read through now it's highlighted and things like that. I think it makes it a lot more personal and a lot more special, because obviously you have your own life as a person, but I do think there is an aspect to like your life as a reader changes and develops, and there's always something new within it, and you're never going to read the same story twice. It's always going to mean something different to you, and you're always going to, I think, take something different away from it. And so it's, like you said, kind of nice to be able to memorialize that in like a physical form.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, your life experiences impact how you view things and how certain things affect you. So as you grow older and have new life experiences, obviously the books you've read in the past are going to mean different things. So like, if you've never been married and then you read a book about a marriage or marriage in trouble, like that's going to affect you differently versus someone who's single. Or you've never been a mom and you read accidental. Yeah. Wonder who that's talking about. Or if you've never been a mom and you read books about motherhood or miscarriage or accidental pregnancy or these things, like, you're obviously going to have different reactions to it at different phases of your life, or different from your friends who have experienced that. And so I think that is just a really cool way to see how you've grown and changed, and also appreciate books written for different seasons of your life.
That's beautiful.
I have my moments.
Okay, so I think that about wraps us for today. We finally have gotten an episode that's not hours and hours long. Go team. And like we said, we would love to talk to you guys, so let us know your thoughts. If you have any kind of responses to anything we said, any recommendations for future book club books, we're always on the lookout for those. And we'll see you guys next week. Actually, before we go, Bree's going to tell you what our March book club read is.
Our March book club read, if you listened at the beginning of this episode, which I hope you did. No, it was the beginning of last episode. It was the end of last episode. Scratch that whole sentence.
Me editing, highlighting this whole thing. Garbage.
Like, get it out of there. If you listened to last week's episode, we talked about No, it wasn't even.
It was 2 weeks ago.
Gosh dang it. Let me start again. If you listen to our episode on our favorite
last week's
romances,
beginning and the beginning of this one last week, 2 weeks ago, or any episode before that, you'll know exactly what we're talking about.
Okay, I'm really ready this time. I've got it. If you listen to the episode where we talked about our favorite romances, at the end, we talked about our TBR trios, which are 3 books that are highly recommended, and on our TBR, we want to prioritize them. And a book that was on Hannah's that I also said that I wanted to read was We Who Will Die by Stasia Stark. It is a fantasy. She's got holding it up if you're watching. It's the Fairy Loot edition. It's gorgeous. It's also on Kindle Unlimited as of right now when we're recording this. I think it will stay on there. Not sure, but
and it was a book of the month
right now.
Book. So I think they'll still probably have some available if you subscribe to that.
And I have seen so many people rave about this. Like Hannah said in the previous episode, it's like Roman Empire and vampires, and everything about it just sounds really, really good. And I cannot wait to read this. I'm super excited about this pick.
We are both very excited about this. I think it's gotten just a lot of buzz. And what I see a lot of people saying about it is that it feels like a very fresh, new, different romantasy. And I think since romantasy gained a lot of popularity, I feel like a lot of books have fallen into the same tropes, general plot arcs, like storylines, kind of the same copy and pasted characters over and over again. So anything that specifically doesn't have like comp titles and can't be related to anything else, I think is going to be, if not like the best book ever, at least a super interesting read. And really the books that we want to be able to talk about within our book club are, you know, have to have some kind of meat to them so that we have themes, characters, things to like discuss. So I'm very excited to see what we think about We Who Will Die.
Yes. Super excited. Cannot wait. Don't forget to join on our Fable, which is linked in our Instagram and on the little graphic I made that tells you where everything's at. Join our Fable Club so we can talk about it. It'll be super fun.
And the Fable Club's really cool because it's designed so that you don't get spoiled as you read. Each chapter, I think, has its own kind of chat room. So as you go, you can look through other people's thoughts, add your own, come back to it if people reply, that kind of thing. We decided to use Fable for that reason instead of like a group chat or something like that, just because that gets to be, I think, hard to manage and hard to keep up with.
Agreed.
Cool. So, take 2. I think that is all we have for you today. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you guys next week. That's it for today's episode of Chapter Chats. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Chapter Chats Pod.
And you can find me, Bree, at Brazen and Bookish on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
And you can find me, Hannah, at Bookshelvish on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Substack.
Or you can email us at chapterchatspod@gmail.com with book recommendations, episode ideas, or just to say hi.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review, follow, and subscribe on your favorite platform.
Catch you next chapter.